So there are people who complete their PhD in 7 years, you're saying?
Depending on how your luck is. The PhDs are extremely underpaid. 7 years, you are running on pennies.
So do you think in PhD there is less clarity?
Jump in the ocean, and when you jump, you would learn how to swim.
In corporate, there's like, you finish a task, you get appreciation. How is it in PhD?
Yeah, so your progress is defined based on how much you have achieved.
For someone who's done both corporate and now is pursuing PhD, which is better?
I can't answer that. I feel like there won't be any justice if I answer that question. But for me,
let's do this. We'll talk about different aspects and then we'll see. Then we can maybe answer that last question or maybe not.
Yeah.
So when we talk about different aspects, the first thing that comes to my mind is the structure. What is PhD? What is corporate life? Like, how would you define it?
I feel like PhD is not at all structural. Like it's literally chaos. If I have to summarize in one word, when I say chaos, it's like there is no starting and ending point. Like you'll never feel like you're finishing your PhD. So if I define a day-to-day life of a PhD student or a PhD researcher, they do literature survey. So they do read a lot about what others are writing in their field. And then they try to understand that topic better. And then they try to implement, discuss with supervisors, validate, try to see whether you're getting what you are expecting out of what you read and what you implemented. And then again discuss with supervisors. So supervisors are involved at every stage. So having a extremely good supervisor is extremely important in your PhD. Otherwise, you would be getting lost at every stage. As I said, like you have to discuss with your supervisors everything. That is how a PhD look like. Like it has a lot of feedback going back and forth. And if I define corporate in terms of structure, I mean, when I used to work in corporate, it was time bound, like you have to go to office.
Just interrupting you, so our viewers know, you have almost 8 years of corporate experience now before you started your PhD.
I have, I would say 6.5 to 7 years.
Okay.
If you count my PhD experience, yes.
Oh, then it makes 8. Okay, 7 years of experience. You have 7 years of corporate experience before you entered PhD.
Yeah. So that's why, like as I said, like working in corporate, it's more structural. You have defined KPIs, which is like your
key performance
indicators.
Yes.
You define them at the beginning of every financial year. And then you work towards KPIs. So you know what your target is, and then you're trying to deliver that within that 3 months, 5 months, or 1 year of appraisal cycle. So that is more structured. The company has goals and you need to meet those goals. And as I said, like it's time bound. So you have to go to office at a particular time. You have to exit your office at a particular time. And so it's very different, I would say, like extremely.
In terms of progress, how would you define or measure progress while you're in PhD and if you're a corporate employee?
I think I partially answered that question. So you defined your KPIs, and KPIs in terms of corporate, I'm talking about. So in corporate, your KPIs are pre-decided, and then you try to work towards fulfilling those KPIs. And so your progress is defined based on how much you have achieved in those KPIs or deliverables, I would say. While in your PhD, there is no quantification. You cannot quantify except the fact that if you can publish good quality research papers, that's when your work is basically come on surface. But somebody who is not able to publish the research paper doesn't mean that they are not working.
They're not progressing.
Yeah, they are not progressing. So that's why I said, like, there is no way you can define a one quantified metrics for a PhD student or a PhD researcher. But if they have published a good research, they have published, for example, a research paper in reputed journals, then you can say that they are doing really good job. But if you are not able to publish, that means you might be getting stuck with your experiments or simulations, and you must be putting a lot of hard work, and then also you're not able to publish. This is not because you don't do work, but it's because you are struggling with a lot unpredictable factors than you should have. So yeah, it's very difficult in terms of like assessing the progress of a PhD guy.
So you said like if you have published papers, how many papers do, like just for my knowledge, how many papers does a PhD researcher or student publishes in their duration? And how long is that duration? Like, do you define that duration?
So yeah, the duration depends on the geography. Like if I am in India, the duration is different. So you might take like 6 to 7 years, 5 years. While if you are in Europe and UK, you might take somewhere between 3 to 4 years. So the duration is that time period we are looking at, like 3 to 4 years outside India, I would say. And in India, 6 to 7 years. US is also similar, like 6 years, 5 years, 7 years. So yeah, it takes away 1/7 of your lifetime. So yeah, you need to be really
that's long to be committed to something, especially in this hustle culture where, you know, people are like changing jobs, changing roles, they're trying new things. You commit for, if you're like 7 years, that would be the max. So there are people who complete their PhD in 7 years, you're saying?
Like those are like those are worst case scenarios. As I said, like sometimes your life, like your PhD progress is decided by whether you have achieved the results, but sometimes it's not in your hands. And then
in the best case scenario, when would you like
I would say like the best of the best PhD student anywhere in the world would take somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years.
Oh.
Yeah. And then so the range is quite long, 2.5 to 7 years, depending on how your luck is. It's purely luck.
It's like you can die whenever between like 45 to 100 years or maybe 2 years old to 100 years old. That's a long range. But it's very interesting how like you have to have that commitment towards your research or your work for that longer period of time. So in terms of learning and execution, how would you differentiate a corporate learning or, you know, executing work and PhD?
So in corporate, I mean, you think fast and implement more. So I would say like in corporate there is a very expedite, like the process is very fast. Like you have to quickly think and implement, and then if that doesn't work out, then you try new things. While in research, I would say the opposite. Like you think more, you try to learn more, go deeper into the subject, and then also implement. So these are like little bit different. In corporate, things go fast, while here you have to be very precise with what you are doing. Like you should know your subject. So in corporate, if you have a surface level knowledge, might work because you are looking at the bigger picture there, while PhD has to be a little deeper. So yeah, the executions are little different because your goals are different. Here you are trying to push the boundary of a science. Before you, there are 1,000 researchers who has created a bubble, like the science bubble, and you have to push the boundary of the science bubble to increase it a little bit. So it's like you're creating a dent in the circle. While in corporate, you gain the knowledge from your, let's say, colleagues, your friends, your bosses, and then you follow the process and try to implement everything faster. So yeah, the timelines, the time scales are different, the speed is different, the goals are different. So yeah.
I like the metaphor that you used of create like there's a bubble and then all you have to do is like expand it and like create a dent or something. That's very interesting. that takes me to a very important question I'm sure a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Monetary benefits.
Don't go there.
I already went. Now you have to come back from that.
Yeah, so the monetary benefits while you're pursuing your PhD, I don't think like in every part of the world, you're not being paid usually. So in India, you would be earning, like, I wouldn't say that's a earning, it's a survival,
Stipend, yeah,
like the money
yeah.
that you need for survival. So you would be given maybe 30,000 to 40,000 per month if you haven't got like any special scholarships. In UK, you would be getting maybe like 1,700 pounds to 2,000 pounds. Again, depending on what kind of scholarship you have got. But then there is this 1,700 pound, 50% of that would go into your rental. So you are left with just 50% of your stipend to eat. So the PhDs are extremely underpaid and they have to survive with that money. And as I said, like 7 years, you are running on pennies. And I think that is one of the roadblocks of people. I would say like a disheartening factor or a factor which affects a lot of decisions, like whether you want to do whether you should do a PhD or not, because the financial or monetary benefit is nil, I would say.
But there is a greater benefit in the future,
yes,
you
of
would
course.
say, right?
Like that's why you want to do a PhD. Like you have bigger goals in your life. You might be
You're not thinking about short-term gains, but long-term
gains. Yeah.
Right.
So you might be someone who likes science. As I said, like you have to go deeper into the area you are working in. So you like science and you want to contribute towards science. There might be many other like factors which motivates you to pursue PhD. Yeah, so for those reasons you do a PhD, and then you also hope that after PhD you would have in long term you would kind of gain the same amount of money and fame as you would in corporate. So in corporate, like you are paid, I wouldn't say like extremely huge, but much better than what you are paid in your PhD. So there is a huge difference.
That's when you're talking about stipend when you're a student. So I'm gonna deviate it a little bit. I don't know if that helps, but even like after PhD, or say you're getting into academia, you're a researcher, the pay gap is still huge as a researcher in academia or compared to a corporate.
Of course there is a pay gap. Specifically talking about academia, then you would be paid a salary of a professor, which is equivalent to probably a mid-level professional, maybe like corporate employee. Like while the senior employees in a corporate would be earning way too much than a professor, but the professors has a lot of other advantages. Like they are basically doing what they loved from their undergrad
there's
to
a
PhD.
Purpose.
There's a purpose. They are trying, as I said, like they are trying to contribute to the science for the betterment of the future. And also, like if they really want to be after money, they can have a lot of industrial projects, like the corporate projects that they can take and earn more money. So there are ways by which they can be, like they can try to earn more and more money. But I think that is probably
the secondary,
not the very
that's a secondary option. The main thing is, I would say that you get to make a difference in the society.
I mean, it's not that the corporates are not making the difference.
I mean,
it depends
individually,
on the individual
if you say, if you see individually, if a corporate is making a difference, your company is making a difference, and not always is that one particular person.
The life, like a lot. Like when you are a professor, you are affecting the life of all the students whom you are, let's say, managing, and you are shaping the future. You are shaping the future scientists. So you get to touch more lives when you are.
I think it went way too deeper, and this can be like a totally separate topic to discuss on. Deadlines and expectations. Same PhD versus corporate. How does one decide deadlines in PhD, and what about like same thing in corporates?
So in your PhD, the deadlines are decided by yourself. Like you want to finish the PhD is yours, you know. So
You want to
have
finish it either in
yeah,
3 years or in
yeah,
7 years.
yeah, literally that's the case. Like you can like if you try to put in a lot of hard work, then you might want to like you might finish it like way sooner than other people. Of course there are external factors which I talked about, but we are keeping that aside for now. So the deadlines are decided by you, by when you want to, let's say, publish something, write reports. The supervisors are there to guide you. But in UK, where I am doing my PhD at Imperial, there like the professors are there to guide you at all the times. You can discuss with them what timelines you're looking at, what kind of research you want to do. So it's driven by you. In corporates, as I said, the deliverables, the timelines are decided by company goals. So it's very different there. Like it's an external driving factor there, while here it's an internal driving factor that you're looking at.
Rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Structure or chaos?
Structure.
Salary or freedom?
Salary.
Speed or depth?
Depth.
Okay, now you're talking, because until now I was like, I think you're in the wrong place. You're not supposed to do PhD. Clarity or curiosity?
I would choose both.
You can't have both. So you need an ideal situation. You need an ideal world where you can grab best of both the worlds.
Actually, like my choices are defined by my experience. So since I worked in academia, which is like doing my PhD as well as working at Imperial before, and also I worked in industry. So I know like the clarity is needed at like both the sides, corporate and PhD, and structure is definitely needed everywhere.
So do you think in PhD there is less clarity?
I don't think the clarity is less. I mean, we have to define what clarity means in PhD. So you might get confused about the ideas that you want to explore while you are doing your PhD. So you have like too much on your plate, and then you're trying to see which one is the area where I want to contribute the most. So clarity about subject is something else, but clarity about the choice, the area where you want to contribute the most, and that area like you have to go deeper and deeper with time. So that clarity comes with experience. When you try exploring that topic for 6 months, 1 year, that's when you get clear about what you want to do a PhD. So don't assume that you would get clarity on day one and you would start working instantly as you go and start doing a PhD. Don't expect that, otherwise you would be in a difficult, like you would be having a very difficult time in PhD.
You have to be ready for whatever comes to you eventually. In corporate, there's like, you finish a task, you get appreciation. How is it in PhD?
You finish a task and you get confused. so in your PhD, the more you learn about certain topic, the more you realize how much you are missing and how much the things that you have implemented or learned may be either partially right or completely wrong. so PhD is a very like the more you know, basically the less you understand that topic. So yeah.
Okay, I because I know that you're constantly thinking.
Yeah.
You're constantly in your mind, you're doing, I don't know, calculations, coding, something went wrong, something went right. Like this morning when I asked you, you were just out of, like, between our conversation, you're staring in on the wall, and I can see you're thinking. You were thinking out loud. And I make the biggest mistake of my life, asking you, what are you thinking?
I might have answered that I implemented this equation 10 days back, and I just realized that something is wrong with that. so all I'm thinking, like all the PhDs would relate, all the researchers would relate that, the more knowledge you get about a topic, you would realize how much wrong you were in past.
It gives you more space to correct and expand that bubble that you were talking about earlier. And I know I can see that difference in you, like in corporate, where I've worked in corporate. So you 6 o'clock, close your laptop, you're home. But now,
let me tell you about that, the 6 p.m. thing. I mean, I have experienced it a lot, and working in a corporate where your managers are extremely demanding, they would demand meetings for everything. So sometimes you are doing meetings about meetings, like which meeting has to be done when, and then by the time you get to the actual work, it's 6 p.m. and then you're like, what did I do today?
Sometimes I know those meetings, and I mean, no offense, some are like great, very important to have that discussion with your team. But some of the meetings are like, this could have been an email. Why? Why are we having a meeting for this?
So like the PhD has its own version. Like the thing that I was talking about, 6 p.m. in corporate, the PhD is like you come to your lab or office, whatever you call it, at maybe 9 a.m. you open this very fantastic research paper and you started reading it, and you're like, yeah, this looks nice and interesting and relevant to my research. Let's read more on it. And then you start reading papers and papers and paper, and by the end of the day, you have read like 20 papers. Your Chrome tab is completely filled. You can't see what you read. And then at the end of the day, you're thinking, what did I read? I am like extremely confused about this topic now. So when you read your first paper, you were having a more clarity than reading like 20th paper. Jokes aside, this is the day. Like this is how the life of a PhD guy or a researcher looks like. They consume a lot of information, but that information gets absorbed with time. So immediately you won't realize how much those papers are useful. You would get confused, but in long term, these readings would help you a lot.
That's very interesting. So any closing thoughts?
I don't have any closing thoughts, but I would say I have an advice because I've lived.
Please, go ahead.
So the time when you have to choose what you want to do, like you have this, I would say, small urge, let's say, that you want to do a PhD and you are not at all clear about it. Similarly, like sometimes you are working in a different sector and you want to choose, let's say, going into corporate. So this urge of yours, if you are extremely disturbed about that urge and you don't want to regret whether I should have done it or not, just do it. Like if you have this urge that you want to do a PhD and you are like 5% sure about it, I would say just do it and make that decision right. To make a certain decision right, you should have some level of confidence. So my advice to you is that whatever you choose, corporate or PhD, you go with the confidence that I am somebody who would
take on the challenge.
Yeah, take
whatever
on the challenge
it is.
And I'll make sure that I make it through. Like I'll go through it and I'll learn.
Yeah, it's so important to take that jump. To take that, to have that leap of faith. Because if you don't try, you don't know where you're going to end up. And it could be something amazing.
Yes.
The human behavior is that we always think about the negatives of a decision that we are making, and we never think that, what if it went right? What if it works out? Yes, I completely agree with you.
Advice that I have based on my limited experience, I think it helps me personally a lot.
It's almost a decade of experience. You cannot call it limited experience.
So just go through it, take that decision that is bothering you, and jump in the ocean, and when you jump, you would learn how to swim.
I think that's it for our today's session. And that was really great advice.
If you guys have any questions, you just put it on comments, and I can be both.
We can answer. You can answer related to PhD. You can answer related to corporate. Maybe I can answer. And we do this every Tuesday. So
Yeah.
tune in.